What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi here, flying solo today. Hope Sheets has a nice night. Usually it's date night for him, so hopefully he's having a good one out there. Hopefully you guys are as well. This is a pretty big slate, a lot of ways to go. I have my original build still up, and they're up on the site right now. I haven't changed anything yet. I'm going to make some edits, I think. But I really like Bones tonight as the better play in that game with no Murray. But I don't think like you need to do it. And I think that maybe with the ownership, I'm starting to think some other directions. My favorite spends are Tatum, pretty chalky. I really like DeRozan. I think that he's being overlooked a little more than he should. His usage just the other night was just phenomenal. And I'm not saying he's going to put up 64 again, but I feel like at 87, it's reasonable. I actually really like Jimmy too. I think that there is a narrative-driven thing that Jimmy in these situations does tend to play well and has big games a lot. So I actually think those are like the spends, and they're all in the same price range. The other one I'm spending up for is Halliburton. I am going to play some of the chalky Vassell. I am going to play some of the chalky Aldama. I am going to take some shots with Michael Porter Jr. I think that's an interesting route to go in that game. And you never know if you get the late, hey, Jokic, I know he's questionable and he's supposed to play and everything. He's going to play, but like somehow it doesn't happen. Michael Porter Jr. played 35 minutes the other night. I'll take a shot at that again. And even with Jokic plays, obviously 5,400 is reasonable without Murray. And I think there's some more shots there. So I like both he and Bones the best, but I may end up changing my mind a little bit on Bones. I'm sort of debating that one. I like the Malik Beasley narrative. If you want to go a different direction in the similar price range as Bones, I think the 4,200 is a reasonable gamble to take. I don't think it's like a great play, but I think that there is he could shoot himself into like a 25-point real game because they're gonna, even if they're tanking or doing whatever, they're gonna play the hot hand and they're gonna. They rolled by 21 the other night. I don't know. I just feel like I could see Beasley like having a weirdly big game here. He has the quote which my man Kobe put up in the chat, in the Discord chat about what did he say? It was he's gonna kill every one of them, I don't know, something like that. Kill anyone in front of him. I think he saw the Kobe clip a few too many times, but still, it's pretty funny anyway. You know what? I do like Vooch. Sorry, Rashad. What's up, my man? Good to see you again, buddy. It's good to see all the guys who come back for basketball. What's up, my man Nick too? But Rashad, I do like Vooch as well. I just forgot to mention him, and that's my bad. It was a tough matchup for him the other night, and he still is cheap enough to where he's still getting there. And obviously, the matchup tonight is significantly better, and I think that Vooch is a really strong play. In addition to DeRozan, I think you pick one of them though. I don't think I'd play both of them. Actually, you know what? I'd be open to playing both of them. I just don't think you need to. I just like some other players in their price range a little better. I think Caruso is a better play on FanDuel where he's 4K and the steals and stuff could the stuff guy, the stocks guy. This could be a one you want to use over there. I do have different plays on FanDuel because of some of the pricing. I'm willing to gamble on Hartenstein. I really think that I know there was foul trouble for Robinson. It does look fluky if you look at that from that perspective. And he wasn't as productive as he usually is. That's the other thing, though, you can look at is maybe there's a bigger upside for him in terms of his production per minute because he can do so many things on the court. So I actually like him on FanDuel paired with Aldama in the front court. I think the safer move is to play Jabari and Aldama, but I like the idea of playing for Hartenstein for the upside with a little bit of a cheaper price tag. I like the idea of playing Jokic over there. I like Mathurin a ton over there at 4,300. I think he's playable on DraftKings at 55 too, by the way. And I really like on FanDuel as my point guards. I really like Ja and Trey as my favorite spend ups there. I got Ja, Trey, and Jokic in my main lineup. Other guys like Scotty Barnes, Anthony Edwards, really strong plays as well. No problem, Remo. Happy to do this. How do we approach the Magic Hawks game? So let's talk about that a little bit. I love questions that are about games that are actually, fantasy-wise could be very significant. So the problem I have with the Hawks on DraftKings is just simply the price. The only one who you sort of can get to who's going to be pretty popular is Collins. The 97 for Trey, sure, he could get there to 96 for DeJounte. I prefer playing Trey, even though I understand it suits his game better to play at 97 to play on DraftKings. The 87 on FanDuel, I think, is where you want to play Trey. So on FanDuel is more where I'd have interest in this game. I do like Collins. I just honestly am not getting to him that much, but I do like him. I think he's a fine play. And I feel like if assuming that Cole Anthony plays, just has me a little bit off of the Magic. But I certainly have no issue with anyone. I just don't really feel excited about playing any of them, particularly. I think you're going to see other big games out of Paolo. I think that they know it, and I think they're going to probably put DeAndre Hunter on him. So it's going to make it a little bit more difficult on his life. And I think that Atlanta might be a little bit better defensively than they have been in seasons past. With the, you had a real perimeter defender in Murray who can actually focus on defense, not like he had to do in San Antonio. And then I think Okongwu is going to get more minutes this year. I just think that between he and Capella, you're just getting to be a solid team defensively. So I'm actually not as high on this game for fantasy, but it's a game that there's like 9 guys I would say, yeah, no problem with those, or maybe not 9, maybe like 6 guys that I could say no problem with that play. Collins, Trey, DeJounte, I have no problem. I'm just not going to do it. DeJounte would be the last one, obviously, of them, but Franz, Wendell Carter Jr., no problem. Just not personally going to attack that game myself, except for Trey on FanDuel. Do I like Cunningham or Halliburton as last piece on FanDuel? That's an excellent question. I'm higher on Halliburton tonight because Jaden Ivey gives me enough reason to be a little bit scared that some of the usage could be taken away from him. But I think they're very close, and I'm playing those guys together in a couple lineups. So I honestly feel like it's a toss-up, but I'm personally giving the edge to Halliburton myself. Let's see what else we got here. I don't think there's any other questions. So I'll tell you guys what, I'm just playing one in the 888 and one in the 555. I got a flight in a few hours. So I'm going to get out of here a little bit earlier, but please keep firing questions and thoughts in because I'll hang around it for a little while longer. I still got enough time to make my flight and finish building my lineup. So yeah, let me know if you got any other thoughts on anything, because I think I went through most of my plays. I want to just address the Ish Smith thing. Like, he's in my original build on FanDuel, and I don't really think I need to do that. It feels kind of dirty. I wanted to play him on FanDuel. I thought he'd initially be popular on DK, but I really think if you're playing him, you should probably play him on DK. So I'll probably leave him in one little FanDuel lineup or something, but I don't know. I don't even think on DK he's that good of a play. It's a fluky – it's kind of a weird situation. Jokic is really the point guard anyway. And I mean, Jamal Murray still – you don't know for sure, I don't think we had the official word. I think we just have what we're thinking right now. So it worries me. I am not playing Ben Simmons for what it's worth. I thought about it, and I decided not to. That's pretty much it. I do think he's going to be lower on than he's being projected for. So his projections, his point projections are just too high. I like Sheets' projections better than I do Saber Sims on that one. That was one I struggled with a little bit because I kept needing that price. Actually, at guard, it's not a slate tonight where you have to play double center. I think you could, but I think that there's so many better routes to go that I think I'm finding myself with a lot of forwards in my utility because, as I mentioned, I like the DeRozan, Tatum, and then I play Butler at like no ownership. And then you get the run back in that game with Boston. And if it's close, Butler's going to want the ball down the stretch. And I just feel like that's a really interesting spot to try and attack a little bit of a narrative. And I think that so is the Malik Beasley thing as my other weird one. I think Booker's a solid play tonight. I do. I'm not getting them. I'm slightly weighing DeRozan a little bit ahead of him. But I think that he's a solid play. It's close between he and DeRozan for me. But I think that I have DeRozan just a little bit higher. But I think Booker is like, and we all know he's got a massive ceiling, but like in general, I feel like he's going to be more in the like 50 range when he gets there here, which is great. But it's not like exactly like you might want a little bit, like I think DeRozan can get to 60 here tonight, even in a tough matchup, just because. I mean, I'm sorry, not in a tough matchup, in a much better matchup than the first night because he's got so much control. But with the way they kind of phase Chris Paul out of the offense, maybe I'm underestimating the Booker play a little bit. Maybe it's a little better than that. Obviously, we love the matchup against Portland. And for what it's worth, they looked for a half like they were going to be like horrible. Then they made an incredible comeback. Nope, no interest in Gobert. I don't even know what Gobert's price is. That's how little I paid attention to him today. Unless I'm missing something with him that I understand that it doesn't mean anything his former team. They gave him every chance in the world in Utah until they decided to rebuild. It's not like he should have any any extra umph or anything. And he's 9K. Oh my God. No, I can't do that. The odds of him outscoring all the other 9K-ish players are almost, I feel like, non-existent. I mean, Jason Tatum is 200 cheaper than he is, for crying out loud. Like, I mean, I don't know. Don't have a Pelican play. I don't like any of the Pelicans. I think that every one of them has a ceiling, and every one of them should be considered. And then I decided I didn't want any of them. They cut into each other so much that somebody kind of just has to get hot, and it's really hard to predict who that guy's going to be in this game. It's a good matchup. I think the spread should be higher. I really think that they're significantly better, but they just don't have anybody that makes sense to me. I think McCollum would be probably. Any of them are fine. None of them are guys for me, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Don't have any interest in them. If all of them, I can make a case for, but it's too big a slate. Why would I be playing them? Let's see. Any other questions? I don't think I missed anything else. I don't think I have anything else here. I like Anthony Edwards for what it's worth tonight. I think that he's a really, really good play, and I think that on DraftKings he's not going to get played. On FanDuel he will, but I do like Edwards quite a bit. I mean, he couldn't make a shot the other night, and he still put it up in the 30s. The guy's going to have a lot of games. He's going to have a lot of games in the 60s this year. I think he's actually really interesting on DK. Wow, 78. So you'd be playing him over guys like Halliburton or with guys like Halliburton. I think the ceiling is so there for him. That's really interesting. I like the idea of getting a little more Edwards, I think. Lillard is, sure. Well, for whatever reason you want to do it, you can do it. Bad matchup. Certainly doesn't look like he has the burst that he used to. Probably will shoot better than he did the other night in Sacramento, but certainly looked like a much worse player than De'Aaron Fox in that game. I would, if you do it, I would do it on FanDuel. I wouldn't touch it at 9,500 on DK. I do think he's going to have some really big games this year, but you're playing him over so many other guys that wouldn't you just rather play Ja, another guy? I don't know. I'm not doing that. If you want, I have no problem. You can always make an excuse for everybody, but then, Lillard, Steph, every one of these guys. But overall on these big slates, I do want to try and get the guys who I expect to score the most points in the high range per dollar to some extent. And I found myself not really paying up all the way on DraftKings, although I am paying up for Jokic on FanDuel a little bit. And I actually don't think I think he's just a good play on DraftKings as well. I just wish there was a run back in there if I'm going to spend that much on a player. All right. Pop in some more things, guys. I need to go back and forth. I get tired of hearing my own voice just repeating myself about my plays, but I do think we brought up some, I do think that the guys like Anthony Edwards and Butler, obviously the priorities being Tatum and DeRozan or Vooch or something like that, but I would say and Halliburton, but those guys are the Edwards instead of one of those guys, or Jimmy Butler. You do that and you're already going to just be different than most lineups. And I think there is some real merit to making that kind of a play on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think Edwards is going to be more popular, so I don't think I'm saying anything. Let me just double check his ownership right now. Let's see. Actually, wow, yeah, people aren't even going to play him over there. I think Edwards and Jimmy Butler are my favorite spend up, get off the boardy kind of guys. There's plenty of other guys you can make arguments for, but I would rather do it for the guys that are a little bit cheaper. You could make the argument for Durant on FanDuel for sure. I think that's fine. I just personally am not doing. I just don't want to do it. I want to spend it. I want to focus on my guys only, and not really get too crazy a spread. The one guy who maybe you should though, put in that same category is Ja. I do think without Brooks, if that game stays reasonably, he can do whatever he wants, and they run him everything through him. Even when they run ISOs for Bane, it's always like a 2-man, and Bane can just pop right away, which gives him an assist. I don't know. I just feel like he has the ball in his hands so much. It'd be hard for me not to have some interest in him for tournaments. He's the one above 10 K guy, or I guess 9,000 plus player that I like other than Jokic, because I think that he could actually put up a score that's the highest score on the slate. I think that that's very reasonable. But most of the other guys I think could do it as well are a lot in the 8K range. Jalen Green, I have some interest in. Sexton, not with the way they're using him. Maybe it'll change at some point. I don't see why it would be tonight. I don't know. Yeah, he played 20 minutes the other night. I'm not getting a Sexton. I was into the play at first. I still think he's too cheap, and I think he'll get the reins at some point. Wait till Conley or Clarkson sit before we start playing Sexton and Conley, and he's starting or something like that. I do think Beasley's that weird sneaky play though today. No problem, Jimmy. Yeah, later night guards are always a good idea. The only problem is what happens like if Jamal Murray gets announced in and all you've got is like Bones and another. You have to make sure it makes sense as a 2-man swap or something like that if you're going to do that. Something weird like that happens, Anything I like in the Nets-Raptors game? Scotty Barnes. I like Scotty Barnes. I like Siakam. And I like Van Vliet as a lower owned play than he probably should be. He kind of lit up this team a couple times last year, I believe. Just felt like feels like they're turning a little bit more over to Barnes, and it's sort of going to keep going that way each night. 7 assists. He had more assists than Van Vliet had. I don't know. I do like Van Vliet. I prefer Halliburton, so I didn't get to him as much. So, but I think all of those guys make some sense. Yeah, I think that's too much, Eric. Kobe White or Caruso. I think they're good large field plays. I think Caruso is a very reasonable play on FanDuel. I don't think he's as interesting on DraftKings. I think Desonmu would be more interesting for me. In fact, I don't really understand. Let's just talk really quickly about that. I think Desonmu is just being misprojected. That's one I'm going to take a gamble on in a couple of like the 88 or something like that. I got 0 Simmons, Eric. There's no, and by the way, Eric's one of those guys who does it. Everybody says that when they just act like there's some guy you have to play. It's just on these giant slates so rarely true, and certainly it's not true about Ben Simmons. So playing a Ben Simmons who's going to have some ownership at all is a little bit more than I'm gonna go for. Although I was the one who was into the idea of him the first night just because I think there is upside there, but I don't see it with the way they look. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate Nick. I'll take you through with my thoughts on the Lakers. I think they have a lot of problems, and I think that sure Russ missing shots, but the truth is they all missed shots. They were 1 for 25 between he and Beverly and Nunn last night. You can't go 1 for 25 from your guards. I actually think they've been more competitive. Like you factor in they can't hit a freaking shot to save their lives. If even these guys shoot their career averages, which are not all that impressive, or even lower than that, 5% lower for each, like they're still they would be right in these games. So in some ways, I feel like there's less reason to panic than people are making it out to be. But I mean, they did lose to 2 of the best teams in the NBA. But I don't think that they're also contender. I haven't thought that this whole time. Brunson's. Yeah, I mean, like, sure, like just in a sense, okay, that just seems like a guy to play though, doesn't it? Like Brunson is 6,800. He's completely fine, is what I would say. I have no particular interest in him myself. I do think the play is Julius Randle. I said this the other night, and I felt good that was justified. I had a good percentage of Randle. One of the few things I did right. But I do think Randle is going to have some really big games this year. He looked really aggressive and good. And this could be a big spot. First home game in New York. Doesn't want to start off with the crowd booing him. I kind of like the Randle play a little bit better. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, guys, I'm going to bounce. I appreciate everybody being back here. We're going to have a big NBA season. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it all with you guys. I'm going to be in Idaho. Again, I won't be able to play, so you guys get to win all the money while I'm gone. But I will be doing all my work and getting all the stuff loaded on the site, all my plays every day, and also we'll be doing my videos and all that stuff. All right, guys. Good luck to everybody.